Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Friday, March 30th. Got 9 games tonight on the main slate. Was a fun opening day slate. We definitely hit on some good plays for the opening day slate. Lucas Duda went deep for us. Chris Sale was great. Garrett Richards was definitely kind of disappointing. He was pitching really well through about 4 innings. Then he kind of just got blown up in the 5th inning. It was kind of a disappointing play, but that stack with the Royals definitely worked out. Moose was okay. Obviously, Lucas Duda went deep. He was a good play. So we hit on some decent plays for the opening day slate. Looking to continue that tonight on this Friday, or on Friday's 9-game slate. We're going to go through each position, or at least pitcher. We're going to talk about some pitchers that we want to target today. And then I'll give 3 of my favorite hitters, or 3 hitters that I like for tonight's slate. So starting off at pitcher, looking up top here, we got Dallas Keuchel, Alex Wood, David Price. We got 3 pitchers over 10K on this slate. I do like paying up for one of these guys on this slate. Keuchel against Texas, I think I can shy away from here. It's a bad ballpark to pitch in. Keuchel's expensive as well at $11,800. You get really good savings if you want to go down from Keuchel to like Alex Wood or David Price. I really like David Price here. I like his matchup. We saw how well Chris Sale did against Tampa Bay. They're a team that does strike out a lot versus lefties. Their lineup is not very good. If we look at their lineup and their projected runs for tomorrow, they're only projected to score 3.4 runs. And you look through their lineup, definitely got a lot of strikeouts up and down this lineup, guys, that will K. So it's a good spot for David Price for him to rack up some strikeouts. And I think he will do so today. He's only 10-1, which is a pretty nice price considering you get almost $2,000 in savings if you go down from Keuchel to David Price. Alex Wood you could play against the Giants, but I feel like Price might have more upside. And the Giants definitely don't strike out as much as the Rays do. So I prefer Price if we're talking about the stud pitchers to pay up for. Always like to pay up for at least one pitcher. Like to get a pitcher that I know is going to get me strikeouts. And especially given Price's matchup, the strikeouts should be there. And then if we look for an SP2 maybe to pair with David Price, there is a guy that I like that seems a little bit too underpriced, too cheap for the talent level. That is Robbie Ray, $8,700 against the Rockies. I do really like Robbie Ray here, especially given his price tag. Robbie Ray was a guy that was consistently priced over 11, nearly 12K, just about all year, pretty much last year. And today he's only $8,700, which is pretty cheap for a guy with the talent level of Robbie Ray, like I said. It's not the greatest matchup. Robbie Ray has definitely not had much success against the Rockies, at least in the past. Last year against the Rockies, through 3 games, he only put up an average of 15 DraftKings points. Wasn't great against them, but there are definitely strikeouts in this lineup. They have a low total for today. They're only implied to score 3.8 runs. Guys like Arenado, Story, Ian Desmond, these guys will K some. Chris Iannetta, these guys will strike out, even though they're pretty solid hitters. Cargo from the left side going up against the lefty will definitely strike out. And even Charlie Blackmon versus the lefty, you could definitely K as well. So I do like Robbie Ray here. I think he has upside. With Arizona adding that humidor to their stadium, that should make it a little more pitcher-friendly. I still think it's going to be somewhat of a hitter's park, but that humidor should definitely help out, especially with it not being so hot there in Arizona, with it not being summertime yet. I do like this spot for Robbie Ray, and especially given the price tag. I think he's a really good play today. And then if we look for other pitchers, Robbie Ray and David Price are kind of the 2 guys I'm sort of building around, at least as of now. But if we want to look for like tournament options, I think Masahiro Tanaka is always a good tournament play. This guy has so much K potential. We saw last year, I believe he had, against the Blue Jays last year, he had 48 DraftKings points, got 15 strikeouts against them. Obviously, their lineup has changed a bit. They have added some guys. If we look at their lineup, they added Curtis Granderson, Randall Grichuk. Grichuk's a guy that will definitely strike out. Granderson not as much, but not really a bat you're concerned about. So this is a good spot for Tanaka. The Blue Jays have a pretty low total. This is a spot where he could definitely rack up Ks. I do like him in GPPs. I think I prefer Robbie Ray in cash games, but Tanaka for tournaments I think is a really good play. And then if we look for maybe cheaper options, I always like to target Oakland. I'm going to target them all year. So Tyler Skaggs at $7,400. Even though it didn't work out with Garrett Richards, you could definitely play Skaggs here at $7,400 if you were looking to go this cheap. Guys like Julio Chacin, I want to kind of consider just given the matchup against the Padres, but $6,600, I don't know if that's really cheap enough. I feel like I'd just rather just try and find the $2,000 and get up to a guy like Robbie Ray or even Tanaka, who I just feel much better with, even Skaggs. So there's not really any pitchers I like sub 7K. I think Blake Snell's definitely going to be a good pitcher this year, but against Boston, we'll definitely shy away from that matchup. So that's really it for the cheap pitchers, mainly like David Price, Robbie Ray, Tanaka, and Tyler Skaggs are kind of the options I'm looking to go to. Johnny Cueto against the Dodgers, I think I'll shy away from. Kyle Hendricks against Miami, against the Marlins. Not sure if he has really enough upside for me. I'd prefer Tanaka. I think Tanaka way more strikeout upside than Hendricks today. So that's really it for pitcher, at least the pitchers that I really like for today's slate. So if we want to look for some hitters and look for some teams to stack today, definitely going to be looking to target some of these Astros bats. We're going to be targeting them all year, but especially on this slate in Texas. The Astros are implied to score 5.5 runs against Doug Fister. Their bats seem a little bit underpriced today. None of them, besides Altuve, is over 5K. Springer's only 4.9. Bregman 4.5. Carlos Correa 4.9. I think it's a good play as well. Springer 2. Josh Reddick's a guy I really like at 3.5. We'll talk about him. He is one of the guys I like to put into the 5 plays for today. So the Astros, I feel like a team I'm going to be looking to stack up, get some exposure to. I think the Braves against Nick Pivetta in that hitter-friendly park in Atlanta could definitely be sneaky. They got really cheap plays, like Ozzie Albies is cheap. Markakis is cheap if you wanted to play him. And then the Cubs at applied 5.2 runs against bad pitcher and Caleb Smith. Not really concerned about Caleb Smith, so do like some Cubs. The Cubs, maybe the Braves as a sneaky stack, and then the Astros are kind of the teams I'm looking to target. But if we look for bats, there are 3 bats I like. I got one from the Braves, one from the Astros, and then one from another team. But starting off with the Braves, I mentioned Ozzie Albies. I really like him today at 3,600 against Nick Pivetta. I think Albies is a little bit too cheap. I believe he did home run on opening day, had a home run first game of the season for the Braves. I think we're going to see Ozzie Albies really break out this year. He was pretty good in the amount of time that he played last year. Guy has power. He's got speed. If he gets on base, he'll run. Definitely has home run potential. And especially playing in Atlanta with that ballpark being so hitter-friendly, especially to lefties. Albies should be leading off today. He's projected bat leadoff, or he's in the or at least in the lineup, he's projected bat second. Not going to bat leadoff, but he's expected bat second today. He's dirt cheap. The Braves have a pretty high total. 4.7 runs is pretty high for the Braves. And in that ballpark, I really like some of their bats. They're cheap. A guy like Ozzie Albies, if you're looking to pay up for pitcher, definitely makes sense at just 3,600, given that really, really cheap price tag. And then going to the Astros, they're another team that I really like. Obviously mentioned them in kind of the stacks. So Josh Reddick at 3,500, I think's a little bit too cheap today. Going up against Doug Fister. Fister is not the best pitcher. Playing in Texas, that's a great ballpark for hitters. The Astros have one of the highest team totals. I actually think they do have the highest team total on the slate at 5.5 runs right now. So going to be looking to get plenty of exposure to the Astros. You could definitely stack like 4, 5, 6 with Correa, Reddick, Gonzalez. Reddick and Gonzalez are both really, really cheap. Bregman and Springer both seem too cheap as well. Under 5K, just 4.9 for Springer. He homered opening day. I think Bregman might have homered, or at least he had a solid game. He's only 4.5K, which kind of seems too cheap for him. So definitely looking to get exposure to the Astros. Josh Reddick at 3,500 is a guy that I really like. Just think he's too cheap. Going to be batting in the middle of that order for a team that's projected to score nearly 6 runs. Love Reddick today. If you're looking for a cheap outfielder, especially if you want to pay up for a pitcher or pay up for 2 pitchers today, you're going to need cheap bats. And Albies and Reddick are 2 cheap bats that I really like. Then another cheap hitter I kind of like that I think is a little bit underpriced as well is Didi Gregorius, 3,900 in a matchup against Aaron Sanchez. Now, I think Aaron Sanchez is not the most terrible pitcher, but Didi Gregorius against a righty in a pretty hitter-friendly park. Definitely like Gregorius here. I think he's way too underpriced for his talent level. He was a guy that I thought should be priced nearly 4.5, 5K last year, especially in a matchup against a righty. Gregorius hit righties very well last year. Obviously, we prefer him to be in Yankee Stadium because that ballpark is so hitter-friendly to lefties. But in the Rogers Center, but that's a ballpark that's pretty hitter-friendly as well. So I definitely like some of these Yankees bats. I think Gregorius batting in the middle of that order, batting in front of Stanton. You know he's going to have opportunities for RBIs. With Gary Sanchez project to bat behind him, plenty of opportunity to get driven in by Sanchez. And I just think Gregorius batting in the middle of that order for only 3.9K. Way too cheap in my opinion. So another guy that I really like for today, you got 3 cheap bats all under 4K. Didi Gregorius, Josh Reddick, and Ozzie Albies. Those are 3 hitters that I think are too cheap today. should definitely be considered into your lineups, especially if you want to pay up for a pitcher or two. And then if we move to the BVP for today, some of the top BVP plays, these are guys that have done really well against pitchers that they are facing today. Robbie Ray definitely got beaten up by Charlie Blackmon. Blackman's done well against Robbie Ray, 14 for 27 with 3 home runs, a .519 average. But that's not really going to get me off of Robbie Ray, and that's not really going to make me want to play Charlie Blackmon. You would obviously think some of those at-bats came in Coors Field, and that ballpark's so hitter-friendly. I'm not really concerned about that BVP. If you look for other BVP plays, Corey Seager against Johnny Cueto, I think is definitely a guy you could go to. I think Seager's pretty cheap at shortstop. Yeah, he's only 4,400, even though it's not the best hitters park in LA. 4,400 for Corey Seager against a righty that he's had a lot of success against. You could definitely play at shortstop if you want to go there. And then other plays like Matt Kemp, I guess you could play just because he's gone 12 for 37 against Cueto, but obviously some of those at-bats were when Matt Kemp was actually good. He's not that great now. Definitely think I'd kind of shy away from Matt Kemp today, but if you really believe in BVP, you could go to him. A lot of these Rockies bats have definitely had success against Robbie Ray, which kind of concerns me a bit. Arenado's done well against him. Trevor Story's done well against him. Cargo's actually had a pretty solid outing against Robbie Ray, 6 for 15. But that's really not going to get me off of Robbie Ray. I just think he's too cheap today. Obviously, going up against Colorado, some of those at-bats were in Coors Field. You definitely have to take that into consideration. So that's really it for top BVP plays, at least if we look at hitters. If we look at some of the pitchers who have done well, David Price has done really well against the Rays. 10 for 90. The Rays are only hitting 10 for 90 against David Price. A 111 average, pretty gross. So it's a great matchup for David Price, and he's had great success against the Rays in the past. Same with Tanaka against the Blue Jays. Tanaka's done pretty well against them. They haven't hit Tanaka that great. The Blue Jays haven't, only going 25 for 133, which is a 188 average. So David Price and Tanaka are two guys that have had a lot of success in their matchups in the past. And there are two pitchers I obviously did mention that I do like for today. But that's really it for BVP. If we look at some of the top BVP plays today, I think that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button down below. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. Gonna try and be a lot more active on Twitter, at least tweeting out stuff. I don't really tweet out a lot besides my videos. I'm definitely gonna start tweeting out a little bit more. So make sure you're following me on Twitter if you haven't already. Like I said, if you have questions, you can ask me on Twitter as well. And yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck tonight on this slate, guys. We'll see you back tomorrow. Peace.